The Fox and the Goat, a fable by Aesop. Pictures used under the Fair Use copyright law. A fox, one day, fell into a deep well and could find no means of escape. A goat, overcome with thirst, came to the same well and, seeing the fox, inquired if the water was good. Concealing his sad plight under a merry guise, the fox indulged in a lavish praise of the water, saying it was excellent beyond measure, and encouraging him to descend. The goat, mindful only of his thirst, thoughtlessly jumped down, but just as he drank, the fox informed him of the difficulty they were both in, and suggested a scheme for their common escape. "If," he said, "you will place your forefeet upon the wall and bend your head, I will run up your back and escape, and will help you out afterwards." The goat readily assented, and the fox leapt upon his back. Steadying himself with the goat's horns, he safely reached the mouth of the well and made off as fast as he could. When the goat upbraided him for breaking his promise, the fox turned around and yelled at the goat. "You foolish old fellow," he said. "If you had as many brains in your head as you have hairs on your beard, you would never have gone down before you had inspected the way up, nor have exposed yourself to dangers from which you had no means of escape." The moral of this fable has two sides that listeners must take into consideration when following it: the aspect of self, or look before you leap, and the aspect of the other: fool me once, shame on you; fool me twice, shame on me. The fable points out that the goat didn't think through his actions because he wanted immediate results. It says, "The goat, mindful only of his thirst, thoughtlessly jumped down." This is describing the self aspect of the fables. It is very often that a fool will bring misfortune upon himself, so he must be careful. The second aspect, being wary of others, is brought up to explain how we may sometimes be foolish about where our trust is used. But notice that Aesop does not tell us to be wary of everyone, only of those that may trick us. Overall, Aesop attempts to illustrate what can happen to a person when he or she remains unaware of future consequences, either through trust of one that is untrustworthy, or through lack of foresight. He uses the fox in this fable to represent those who we can assume will try to take advantage of us, because the fox is often a trickster in Aesop's fables. Had he used another goat in the fable, it would mean that we should be cautious around our friends, too. In the end of the fable, the fox turns back to the goat and yells to him, saying, "If you had any brains in your head, you would never have gone down before you had inspected the way up, nor have exposed yourself to dangers from which you had no means of escape," showing how one must stick through things and look towards the future at all times. Aesop, once again, plays with the idea of a story with no real hero out of the two characters. The goat couldn't represent a hero because he is foolish, and he loses in the end because of his bad choices. And the fox, as an antagonistic character, is not a just creature because of his lying to the goat and his trickery for his own gain. He shows very unheroic qualities by taking advantage of the goat's downfall, his foolishness, to help himself escape. Ultimately, it is the trickster and the antagonist that survives at the end and continues to live, a trick that Aesop uses to make us imagine the goat by himself forever in the bottom of the well because of the foolish choices that he made. This is a very simple tale that would be good for warning children of the dangers of the world. It would be good for them to learn early on that you must think ahead and plan for the future and its challenges, while also being aware that some people may try to take advantage of them. Looking back to the past, we can see an example of fool me once, fool me twice in the American Revolution. Even though the British were outwitted by the crafty Americans hiding in the trees, they still decided to continue to stand in lines and take the fire. And in a more contemporary example, in Lord of the Rings, Gollum attacks Frodo and Sam. Then Gollum tricks Frodo into trusting him and distrusting Sam, leading them to separate and almost be eaten by a giant spider. Frodo was fooled once and then fooled again by the same person. And for an example of look before you leap, we can look to Steve Odekirk's Kung Pao enter the fist in the scene where the Chosen One attempts to see if he too has Betty's power of invulnerability. He doesn't, and is hurt very much. In conclusion, the fable of the fox and the goat conveys the lesson that you should not act on impulse, but should plan things first, and that you should be wary of people that have already tricked you, so that you are not tricked a second time. Thank you for watching. All pictures were used under the fair use copyright law. The music was Rimsky-Korsakov's Scheherazade, Suite for Orchestra.